Hello YouTube world, my name is Lauren, welcome to my channel, and happy Halloween everyone! In honor of the spooky season, I am working on my reading journal entry for The Witch Haven by Sasha Peyton Smith. Now, I normally don't line up my reading choices with the time of the year because, well, it just never occurred to me that was something you could do. But my friend told me that she saves all her spooky books for the fall because it helps kind of set the mood. So I figured I would give it a shot. And I specifically chose this book to read because I saw that the sequel to this book, The Witch Hunt, was just published, so I knew I needed to read this book first. And if you haven't heard of this book before, it is set in the early 1900s in New York City and follows a girl named Frances Hollowell. Frances's brother was murdered, and shortly after, her mother kind of goes mental. So Frances works at the seamstress workshop, and that workshop also houses her. The workshop is owned by this terrible man who one night attacks Frances when she is working late at night. As she is being strangled, scissors come flying across the room and stab him in the neck, killing him. The police come to investigate the murder, and Frances is obviously the prime suspect, but before they can arrest her, two women pretending to be nurses whisk Frances away to a sanitarium, telling everyone that she has tuberculosis. There, she learns that she has magical powers, and this sanitarium is actually a school for witches. Now, you would think this would be like a fun Harry Potter situation, orphan with powers learning about this magical world and how to cast spells, etc. But nah, this book is surprisingly a little bit darker. Frances becomes kind of intent on developing her powers so that she can communicate with her brother from the dead so that she can catch the killer. And all the while, the school kind of seems to be teaching the girls how to limit and suppress their powers rather than having them explore and grow them. So Frances has to turn to other means to strengthen her magic. And Frances also has a roommate named Lena who can see the future and warns that there's this big battle or like this dark future coming soon. So yeah, this was an interesting read. I gotta say, I was hoping more for a fun book about magic rather than this kind of dark and creepy vibe. But this book wasn't bad at all. I mean, it's young adult, so it's not scary by any means. But I just tend to prefer more lighthearted books. I will say the storyline is interesting, and there is a plot twist in the middle that kind of keeps things exciting. Although I was pretty much able to guess the plot twist based on the clues dropped throughout. So, yeah, anyway, overall I give this book 3.5 stars out of 5. It was a good spooky read for Halloween, and like I said, the storyline is unique. It just didn't keep me interested enough throughout the book. And since the book is in first person and written from Frances's point of view, we as the reader are left in the dark a lot. Like, there's some small weird things that happen around Frances, but she never decides to push it any further. Like, when she was with one of her other friends, Maxine, there was this redhead girl in Maxine's room, and Maxine tells her, quote unquote, not tonight, and then the girl just leaves. Like, that was a little weird and maybe a little creepy. And yeah, we kind of find out what's going on later in the story, I think, but it's also just kind of dropped in there with not much context or importance. And also, I wish the cats kind of played a bigger role in the story, or any role at all. And I'm sorry if that's a spoiler, but cats don't really do anything. They're kind of just stereotypically there in the book because, well, witches. So maybe they're important in the next book, but I guess we'll see. There also wasn't too much of a love story, even though there was a little bit of a love triangle going on between Frances and two of her brother's friends, Oliver Callahan and Finn Darcy. The love interest part doesn't play too much into the story. I mean, it kind of does, but also not really. I guess I can't really say too much without spoiling the book, so you'll just have to read it to know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so what I drew for my reading journal entry is a tombstone to represent Frances's brother's death, a dream cloud because dreams play a big role in this book. I drew a pair of scissors because of the scissor death of Frances's boss, and that's kind of what kickstarts the story. I drew a spell book in the bottom left because that is where Frances learns most of her magic from. And then a black cape in the bottom right because all the girls in the school wear black capes. And the quote I included in my reading journal entry is from chapter 1, where Frances thinks to herself, "A girl's success in this world was dependent on how well she could pretend." So this is actually a part of the opening line of the book, and I think this is an incredible opening line. It's interesting because this book is set in the early 1900s where women have basically no rights and only men are in positions of power. So Frances has to remind herself of this fact because she has to pretend to be pleasant to her boss who visits the workshop for an inspection, but really he's there to kind of just check out the women. And when you think to today's world, it's not that different. Men are still generally in positions of power. And yes, that's slowly changing, but not changing fast enough, in my opinion. And women still tend to fall into the habit of people pleasing and needing to be liked and approved of. You know, pretending to be someone else or pretending to always have a good attitude because that's what's expected of them. And so that is what they have to do in order to get anywhere in this world. Whereas men generally get to be unapologetically themselves and still find groups of men who can lift them up to success. And yes, this is a generalization, and that's not to say that men don't also have to pretend sometimes to suck up to a boss or get a sale, but it's more that women tend to always be seen as lesser whenever they have to show their true selves or express their true emotions or basically are just not perfect and agreeable all the time. It's definitely sad, and hopefully changing soon. But yeah, that was The Witch Haven. There were some other good quotes in the story as well. Like in chapter 2, Frances thinks to herself, "There's anonymity in the city. When so many people live on top of one another, avoiding looking in someone's eyes is a politeness. It's as much privacy as we're able to give each other." And then in chapter 30, there's a quote that says, "Death is warm and soft, and living is so, so hard." So yeah, I really love those two other quotes. I just didn't have space to put them on the page in my reading journal. But yeah, I think that's a good note to end on. Let me know if you agree with my review in the comment section below, and let me know what you think of my reading journal. You can see more of my other reading journal entries before this one on my Instagram page at Lauren_can_, which as always is linked in the description below. If you like this video, I'd appreciate it so much if you could like and subscribe and stay tuned for my future book reviews. Alright, bye!